Yeah.
And I also like, I love this space, like this safe space that we have to talk about this kind of stuff, because in my mind, and I'm sure you're the same way too, whenever these things occur, it's more like, okay, well, I'll just like show through my results, show through like hard work. Like, I don't care what anybody does or things, like, I'm just going to show them that I can add value, right? And I just prove my worth through my actions, through my results. And at the same time, when things like this happen, it does impact your results. It does impact, like, because it's impacting your emotion. And like, all humans we are like emotional human beings. Like, even if you say like, maybe emotions don't drive you and emotions don't drive your decision making, which is fine in business and good, but at the end of the day, we're humans and we have emotions. So these little things, even if they're micro, they all have an impact at the end, right? And so just like wasting that energy being like, even if it's just like a one split second of like, ugh, like that one split second could have been used to invest in like the solution versus being like even a micro millisecond upset, right? And so I think that's sort of like the macro issue. I think a lot of pushback when it comes to topics like this is like, well, don't worry about what anybody thinks, just show them up, which has been my attitude like for decades as well. You know, it's important to have safe spaces like this where we have like people like you actually sharing these experiences, because it is important to be aware of it, right? And so one, like, not feel like you're alone, because I totally like, you know, hear you, and I totally experienced it myself, so I get it. But two, for people that are all the players, right? It's important that everybody's aware of it for the betterment of like productivity for the company. I just thought of that as you're talking, right? I know you produce like great work and you're really committed and you drive a lot of value. And it's just unfortunate because you could probably drive even more value if you didn't have to waste your time with people that are wasting your time with like meaningless and senseless words because of their own ego, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. What you said is totally right. I also wasted like my own energy, like thinking about it, doubting myself, or like worrying about like, you know, it's just like a lot of energy wasted, you know. So like this friction that's being created is really not a productive one.
I feel like people don't understand that like a single like a judgment or like something that you assume about a person can impact like the other person a lot, in that like it can affect like how you work and like how you're feeling. And I think that's like we need to kind of bring awareness to, because like what I've been learning myself and I've been trying to do myself is being like share awareness or make my friends aware of things that like I think isn't right, but being in like, hey, like I don't think this is the right thing to do, or like this isn't the right way to say it. And something I've been trying to do is being like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I should fix on that. And I think like that's like something that we should be doing as like whatever, if it's your boss, or being like kind of working back and forth and be like, this is something that like is my concern, and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of this, I should work on it. And I think that's like something that we should all work on, because if we do that, then we'll be able to understand each other and not have like misperceptions about like their labels and all that stuff, and like kind of assuming what that person is or what that person is doing, you know.
Totally right. I think, you know, I can be much more, and I'm more aware of, you know, how things directly impact me, but at the same time, like being aware of how other things might impact other people. There's a lot going on with like Black Lives Matter, and there's, you know, other, you know, this morning an article about the negativity thrown at Asian people in the US because of coronavirus. There's just so many things happening. There's so many individuals with different concerns and different things on a day-to-day basis. So as a result, you can be more self-aware of what's going on. And like you said, everybody wins if we're all aware of those different situations that could impact an individual more so than you think.
Yeah, I love Mia's point about just kind of like leading by example and saying like, okay, well, I'm going to be like how I want to get treated, right? I'm going to treat part of you the way I want to be treated too. And it's like, nobody's perfect. That's why, yeah, again, like I really love spaces like every IRENE, because it's like, you know, spaces where we can actually develop this dialogue. And that's how we make these changes in our sort of, you know, spheres of influence, right? For you, it's like with the CEO. I'm curious, like, Eiko, can you sort of like explain the scenario and sort of what, like, who is he even, right?
Yeah. So, you know, he's someone who's built a very successful business. in New York, and he is a business owner. And I'm assuming when his business was at its peak, in over 100 employees, many customers, one of the well-known retail presence in New York. And it just seemed like he knows that he is kind of the boss in the industry, and just didn't seem like he didn't want to be asked a lot of questions, because either no one really asked him many questions, or whoever asked those questions to him in the past were probably people around his age. And I don't even know how he assumed that I was an assistant, because just that I have no idea. I think it is the difficulty of doing business online, or emails. Obviously not everything comes across. I mean, we've done a Zoom call in the past, if he actually remembers that. So those little things, I think, added up to where he didn't care. He didn't care. He just assumed.
It's so frustrating to me, like how he didn't tell you directly. He went around your back to your CEO.
Yeah,
it's like a stab in the back. Be like, okay, if you're gonna talk behind my back, come straight to me and talk. Tell me that, so that I can clarify for you, instead of asking other people around. I'm the person you're talking to. I'm the one who should be clarifying.
Yeah, I mean, I think these things happen so frequently. We shouldn't be numb to these things, right? We should always have a solution to these types of treatment or situations. And I think, last week talking to you guys about that really made me feel like, okay, I can do this. And what can you actually do when people do that to you? Assume certain things, assume certain titles, or assume your role just because you are a female and you look young, or you are young, regardless of what that is. They don't really judge you based on what you do.